Hello, welcome once again to Life Lessons with Kelly George. I am so happy that you came into my space, and thank you for allowing me into your space. So, I want to talk to you today about two of my favorite words. But before I do that, I want you to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and share this with your friends, your family, acquaintances, anybody who you think might be of benefit to these videos. So if you've never been to these videos before, the Lord has had me doing these videos to share with you things that I'm learning as I go on my walk with the Lord. And I don't mean a literal walk. I'm talking about a spiritual walk. And I wanted to teach some things, to share some things in the hopes that those of you who are watching won't have to make the same mistakes that I did. And also that you can learn something so you never have to make the mistakes that I did. And it's a live recording as I'm recording this. You won't be watching it live because I don't get to share it live yet. And that's why I'd like you to subscribe and send this out. The more people that watch this, the more it goes out to. And I don't understand how all the algorithms work, but when you get so many people watching, then they allow you to go live. So I'm thinking, though, I may keep on recording it ahead of time because when it's live, you don't get to save it to your computer. I like to save these because my husband and I, we minister to women in prison and we minister to hurting women. And I want them to be able to have access to these videos so that they can watch them when we eventually open up a reentry home for women coming out of prison. And if I go live, they won't be recorded. So I think that's part of the reason why I haven't necessarily looked any further into going live. And I don't know why I'm going into all that, except to tell you to send this out to as many people as you can. And I want more people to see it. I want more people to benefit from what the Lord shows me. And I don't know how long I'll keep doing these videos, but I'll do them as long as the Lord keeps prompting me to do them. He asked me to share them because there's a generation that's what is it? It's missing. There's a missing generation that has taught from one to the next. And at least two in my family. So I want to start sharing things with generations to come, whether that is physical children or generational children or spiritual children. And I just want to be obedient to what the Lord has asked me to do. That's what it boils down to. It's just being obedient. I don't know if this will, I'm not expecting this to be the most popular videos that are out there, because as you can tell, I don't have a fancy background. I'm just using a Zoom filter. And honestly, I don't remember how I got that set up. I was just playing around at it one day, just clicking around, and ta-da, I got this background, which is beneficial for me right now because I'm in my home office. And my home office is a combined office with our work office. So if there wasn't any filter, you would see behind me a green sheet that covers all of our work stuff. So I don't know why I'm sharing that. Maybe it's to encourage someone out there that if I can do this, and you feel the prompting of the Lord to share things that He's showing to you, you can do this. And especially if you're a generation younger than I am. I learned the computers because I take the time to play around. If I'm having an issue with the printer, I take time to troubleshoot. I just click around. When we created a website, I didn't know what I was doing. I just went to probably a Google search to find which different companies do websites, and started with the free one. So, maybe that's for someone else out there. You're wanting to start a ministry of your own and you don't know how to do it. Well, start by creating a website. And there's free ones out there that you can start out and get a free one. Now you may have to tag on their name to it at the end of whatever your ministry is called, but it's free. We weren't embarrassed or ashamed to tag on a company's name on the end of our ministry until we started getting funds coming in, that we just decided to go ahead and pay for an upgrade to take their name off and just have it our name. So, maybe this is for someone out there. You need to be encouraged. If God's speaking to you, don't let other people tell you you don't know what you're hearing, because you know what? They don't know what you're hearing. When God speaks to us, he's speaking to us individually, and no one can tell us what we believe God is speaking to us to do. So I encourage you, be obedient. Take a step out there, and just watch God go before you. He'll keep placing people in front of you to show you the next step that you need to go. And I encourage you to be bold, be brave. And I have to apologize because I have someone who needs to step out of my video so that I can keep recording. And in the van. So you never know what you're going to get when you watch my videos. Sometimes you might hear the dogs bark. Sometimes you might hear my daughter in the background asking, "Where's the vacuum, Mom?" But you know what? I'm not upset about it, because I know what she's planning to do with the vacuum. She's planning to clean with it. And if any of you out there have teenage children, that's a blessing to have them cleaning their room. And sometimes my husband pops in here. So keep watching. You never know what you're going to see. So after all that being said, that was a side trail. Had nothing to do with what I wanted to share with you today. Earlier this week, two of my favorite words that I like to say about God popped up in my scripture reading. And I knew I was supposed to share it with you guys. And the scripture it popped up in was Psalm 64. Right now, in my Bible study time, the Lord is having me go through the book of Psalm. And he's having me journal every day on the psalm that I read that day. In this particular day, a couple days ago, did you find Psalm 64? But this particular psalm starts out, and I don't know about you, but when I'm doing a study, I highlight, I underline, I draw things sometimes, I write things sometimes, because that's where I'm at in that time in my study. And when I go back, because I keep my Bibles, I don't just throw them away once I'm done with them. When I go back and I'm rereading through the word for the year, I can see the notes that I've written in it previously and see if those still fit for where I'm at, and to see if I've grown from that. I just like to have those notes there. But I underlined in verse 1 where it says, "Hear my voice, preserve my life, hide me." I don't know about you, but there have been times in my life that I've cried out to God and I wanted him to hear my voice. Excuse me. There have been times where I've wanted him to preserve some things that I was doing. And there have been some times that I have wanted him to hide me from the enemy. And there have been times that the enemy was a physical person. And then my two favorite words in verse 7, those are, but God. A lot of things can happen. A lot of things transpire, but God. In my notes, I wrote, when the enemy has secret counsel against us, but God. When the enemy sharpens their tongue against us, but God. When bitter speech comes against us, but God. Those with an evil purpose, laying snares, you guessed it, but God. The enemy is not wise concerning the things of God. The word says, is it in this? Yep, in verse 7 of chapter 64, God will shoot at them with an arrow. Suddenly, they will be wounded. As we read lines like this, we should not be walking around with any fear or worry. God is the strength of our hearts, and we need to consider what He has done for us and will do for us the more we focus on Him. After all, what are we focused on? The world and the way things are going, or the kingdom, knowing that He is soon returning for a spotless lamb? Are we focused more on what others are doing wrong, or are we focused on doing the next right thing? The condition of our hearts are very important to the Father. Now, I want to tell briefly of a testimony of a but God moment, okay? I want you to see that even when things happen and you don't understand why they happened, God takes a moment and he turns it around and it turns into a blessing. So let me tell you an example of that. And this is the testimony I want to tell you. So we have a car. It's still ours. We have a car that was donated to our ministry. And we've been driving it around. And we went to a lady's house to clean her house. And she recently had a baby. And so this day that we were cleaning her house, the baby had a doctor's appointment, a 6-day checkup. And she left. And about 5 minutes later, she comes back in and she's just crying. She's very upset. And she's like, I have to show you something. And we're like, I can't imagine what she's going to show us that would make her cry like that. Apparently, backing up, she ran into our car. Okay, so we're like, it's okay. You didn't hurt anybody. You didn't kill anybody. You weren't out on the main street when this happened. You were in your own driveway. We've got insurance. You've got insurance. So it's all going to work out. So we just wanted to encourage her to let her know we weren't mad. We weren't upset. It was just a little inconvenient. The next day, we had to drive to a town that's 3.5 hours away. And the only thing that was a problem was that we couldn't get into the passenger side door because it was dented in and the handle was busted. And on that side of the car, not from the accident, but there was a couple of other things that they weren't major. They were, there was a scrape on above where the tire is on the back tire, and part of the trim on the car had gotten pulled off by a car wash. And it wasn't like, it didn't make it where it wasn't drivable. It was just, sure it'd be nice if we could, if it looked great again. It wasn't bad, but so the next day we drive to this town. On the way home, after dropping our daughter off, the transmission goes out. Well, great. there's another trial and tribulation. You got the first one, the car getting dented in, then you've got the second one of the transmission going out. So we were in the process of contacting the insurance people from the lady who had damaged our door. And then we got in touch with the gentleman that put the transmission in just 14 months earlier. And we found out that the transmission was warranted, but the labor was not. And that's okay, because we know that God supplies the resources, because this car was given to us to use for ministry purposes. And so we contacted the insurance people, and they allowed us to get approval for not only the car door getting replaced, but all the other damage on that side of the car is getting replaced completely free. And we have a rental car for the whole time that the car is getting worked on for the body shop damage. And what was a God thing is that where it's getting fixed is the same place that the transmission is getting fixed. So if the day before we had not have had the lady run into us, allowing us to get a rental when the transmission went out, not because the transmission went out, but because of the body damage, we were still able to get around to do the things that we needed to do, and it's getting all paid for. And we're not only getting a new transmission, but we're getting the whole side of the car redone. So, but God, if that lady hadn't run into us, not saying that was a great thing, but if that hadn't happened, then we would have been short a car. And with a family of 3 drivers, that makes it a little difficult. And it was just so joyful to know that despite the trial, God was taking care of us. And that's just one but God moment in our lives. And someone out there may be saying, how can you be happy about your car getting ran into? I'm happy because I know no matter what I go through, no matter what we go through as a family, but God. And the reason I can say that is because every day, whoa, I got bookmarks flying everywhere. Every day, I'm in this. Every morning, I'm in this. Sometimes in the evening, I'm in this. Like now, as I'm making this video, I'm in this. Studying this, studying the Word of God, meditating on it, doing what it says. Here, a couple chapters later, and in chapter 66, verse 1 says, shout joyfully to God, all the earth. I've been to some churches that they don't shout. They're not joyful. And they're especially not shouting and joyful to God. Verse 2 says, sing the glory of his name. We're singing all the time around our house. We sing in the car. I'll sing in the bathroom. I'll sing in the kitchen. I'll sing in the grocery store. I'll sing in the bathroom at the grocery store. Now, granted, I don't sing so loud that I'm like obnoxious in the bathroom. But I want to be always joyful and voicing my joy, because I don't know who needs to hear the tune coming off my lips. Sometimes I'm just humming in the bathroom. I don't know if the lady in the next stall needs to hear my peaceful humming. I just want to be used of the Lord. And if that's being joyful when a lady runs into the side of our car, that's what that means. That means I'm going to trust him to take care of it, no matter what it looks like. No matter what the trial or tribulation is, I'm going to trust God. And because I trust his word, and his word says if we're faithful and true, he's going to watch over us. You know, Psalm 91, I haven't got to that in my study yet, but it's my favorite psalm. And the more I study about Psalm 91, the more I realize how important it is to a lot of people. It's important to missionaries. It's important to military men and women. It's important to single moms. I was a single mom, and I clung to this chapter as a single mom. If you have not read Psalm 91 yet, I encourage you to do it. I use it when the spirit of fear tries to come upon us. I don't allow that spirit to manipulate us. I use Psalm 91 when storms are trying to come against us, physical and spiritual. I use Psalm 91 to pray over my husband. You know, I'm going to wrap up my video and say, I know. Yeah, I guess I am going to say, I do know that I believe that King David spoke this psalm over his army as they went out marching towards the enemy. Because one day I was speaking it out loud, and it was like I could almost, it was like I saw, not almost, it was like I saw King David on a horse, and he's watching as the military progresses past him. And as the military progresses past him, he's quoting this psalm over them. And it was so real to me that I believe when I get to heaven, that's a question I'm going to ask him. I'm going to go up to King David, and I'm going to say, did you pray that over your military as you went out to battle? Because a lot of the Psalms, David wrote. It doesn't say who wrote this one. It just says security of the one who trusts in the Lord. I like that, even just the title. Security of the one who trusts in the Lord. So are you going to trust in God today? Are you going to read his word? Are you going to meditate on it? So that as things happen, you get to be the one that joyfully says, but God. God bless you. I hope you got something out of this. Email me at lifelessonswithkellygeorge@yahoo.com. God bless.